Alright, so if I'm trying to figure out how my shadows should look, one of the nice tools that I can use digitally, this is also a representation of what I do in my brain. Oh, I don't want to take the photo, I want to insert a photo of my work here. And then I am just going to make this large enough that it takes up my whole kind of field here. And then I will start a new layer. So in my mind, I'm looking at this piece and I'm thinking of it like, okay, where is my light coming from? To visually represent that process, I'm going to go ahead and draw in the lines that I'm thinking about in this yellow color. So the lines that I'm thinking about come from the window, kind of at this angle is what I'm thinking. So from every corner of my window, I'm going to find where that goes. And in this program, just like in Fresco, if I hold, it goes straight. So I'm trying to keep these coming out like I would if I was extruding this to figure out how far a box would go, or the corners of my box would fit, all the way across this room. Now, where these lines are going to get stopped is anywhere they hit a solid piece of furniture that is blocking that light. So here, they hit this cushion and stool. Here, they hit the edge of this desk. And when light hits here, it's only stopping the light that is hitting, you know, down here. So if I draw in my edges here real quick, hopefully. So this wall of light is getting stopped in a few places. Where it's not getting stopped is across this surface. And then I have to figure out a shadow here, but what I can essentially do is like draw a line down at the same angle as my light and say, okay, light starts hitting again right here. And then I will continue to get light all the way to the furthest front of this piece. So like a wedge here, and this, and like a tiny bit here, because this is also blocking a little bit of my light. I might get actually a nice highlight all the way across the front. I would have to put that in and just kind of see how I felt about it and whether or not it looked like my little platform was coming out too far and would block any of that light. Now, I don't see it up here, and I don't see it here because this light is blocking. So I think I can go ahead and go in and erase out at least this part. And I need to figure out how far this shadow blocks. So I'm going to start thinking about where are these shadows coming from. And if I have a box shape here and I want to follow the line of my light and then draw out the box shape again, that's about where the end of my shadow is going to end up being cast, here on the floor. So I don't get this part in shadow, but I have found the bottom of how far my shadow sticks out right there. So now I can remove all of that. So if you kind of extend out with dotted lines or whatever, or even just take your pencil and go, okay, right there is where the edge of my shadow is. Because if I just do a dot at a similar slant to the light, going out, I will find how far this comes out, and it will come out in the shape of whatever is blocking the light. So that would also happen, for example, here, and I would have to come out. Okay, so this is going to be a much longer shadow, mostly because it's further away from the light here, and it's a taller piece, so all of my shadow would come back through here.
So is that because it only looks like it's catching the corner of it, but it doesn't really matter?
So it won't matter. I hadn't erased this yet. Because this line here already got blocked over here. So it's all been blocked. This is actually going to be, I have it winging out just like a little too far here. But this will be a much lighter shadow cast than this one, because this one's sitting closer to the light. So if I was going to change the color to like be a little more representative comparatively, it would be lighter like that. I can also make that transparent so we can see as though it was a beam of light actually coming through here. The other place I'm still going to get light is the top surface of any object in the light's path. So here, oops, one moment, put in an extra mark. In this program, when you go back, it will take you off of your layer. So you have to watch that. So across here does get lit back up, and the only reason I might get a tiny bit of a shine on that top corner, but it's getting pretty far out of my view. The bed is not super in the equation except for maybe a little bit along that post. And then whatever I have on the wall here will get lit on this side. And then the rest of it will be probably a little bit more in shadow because the frame ends up blocking some of that. The other thing that will happen is light gets caught and filters through these curtains. And so you'll kind of get a glow anywhere where you have your highlights and your curtains, just residually, as light kind of flows through the fibers of the actual cloth. You get a little bit of a glow. It'll be strongest right around the window, but you'll even get a little glow extending down below the window where you wouldn't think you would have it, just because the light is bouncing off of the folds of the cloth and things in there and getting trapped. So that's how I visualize light. I can come in, erase these extra things, except for I do get some light coming through there. So this is blocked, but through here is still nice and lit up. This has a little block here that is casting shadow, and it might not come in that far. I would have to play around within here to be like, okay, how, if I just take, I like to use like bright pink or blue when I'm trying to figure out things on top of everything else. But, so I have, that's not gonna Okay. So that's the shape of this. Switch to eraser on me. So let's see. If I need to figure out what shadow this casts, yeah. So I can just draw that box along the front and figure out, okay, yeah, that doesn't reach under there really at all. It gets cut off into like a funny little corner shape. Now I might have some sort of ambient light that is hitting, and if I wanted to map in an ambient light, I would probably just choose a cooler or a different yellow. I'll do it in like an orange. That way we can see what mapping in a second light source looks like. So I would do all that mapping, figuring out, okay, this is where my brightest highlights are going to be, is anywhere in this yellow field. If my ambient light is sitting up here somewhere, and it's, say, brightest right here, what I can do in this program in particular is go into something called Gaussian blur, which just blurs out everything on this layer in like a nice even radiation. So if I go here, I can just do that. That's not quite big enough for me. So I think what I need to do is bring it in larger and say, oh, I did directional blur. Say, okay, that's larger. And I can kind of figure out if everything is, the intensity is fading off about what I have it here, that will happen with each of my highlights coming from this direction. So it'll be the most intense on the closest to, let's map this in so that you can see it. So I'll have the most intense version, and then it will fade out to almost nothing. So here I have the most intense highlights coming across my quilt blocks from that direction. And then they will fade going in the same direction as my ambient light fades out. So your light does effectively continue for kind of a theoretical forever until it gets blocked by something. So I could also make it big like this too and be like, okay, anything really close to this light source is going to be brighter, anything further away is going to be darker. I know it's confusing because physically putting color on here makes it a darker hue, but if we put in a midtone value there and then erased out underneath of it, where our light was, it would be actually a lighter value, where this midtone doesn't exist anymore. We'll do some stuff like this when we get to our digital component. But yeah, essentially as you came through, the light would change. I'm trying to just do it with pressure right now. So then I would think about, oh, okay, there's going to be a little bit of a shadow cast here as well from my bed. Oh. Oh, I don't know really what I'm doing there, but it's not filling in, but this shadow, once again, is going to be even lighter because it's furthest away from a strong light source. That would be up here. I wonder what happens if I just try to make that yellow. I don't think I can. Oh, okay. That's not too bad, actually, with it both being yellow. But so when you're thinking about how the light casts, how strong it is, think about how close is your object to your bright light source. How bright is your light source? And how far, or what angle is this hitting your dresser and stuff like that at? Any questions? I know it's a hard thing to get the hang of in your mind. So I fully expect we'll be looking at stuff and be like, oh, okay, I could have added a little bit more there. What I'm trying to get you to do for this project is simply to look at it and identify and start thinking about highlights and shadows and where those fall. It is a tricky thing to do without any sort of reference. But you all are doing pretty admirably. I just wanted to show this mapping out of like different different shadow strengths and directions. Keep in mind, if your lights are coming from different directions, you might end up with two shadows from the same object, but potentially cast at different strengths and in different directions.